We sell basically all types of firearms that are legal. New firearms, used firearms, war relics, military surplus, handguns, rifles, shotguns. We sell silencers. They've become very popular for hunting.
The legality of all the selling for...
Yes.
So,
yes.
Just really quickly, could we just have you explain what's here, what's there?
Absolutely, yeah. We have to be very well versed in the laws. There's a lot of laws. There's federal law, of course, that encompasses all 50 states that everybody has to follow. All retailers. Now, Minnesota, where we are, we have slightly more restrictive laws than you will find in, say, states like Texas or Florida or whatever. We're not quite as strict as California or New York, but we kind of fall in the middle. So there are a few extra hoops to jump through, at least for certain guns. But from a federal standpoint, you must be a citizen of the state you are purchasing a handgun in. So if you're a Wisconsin resident, you can't come over here to Minnesota and buy a pistol, but you could buy a rifle or a shotgun. That's federal. Now, Minnesota takes it a step further, and you have to have either a permit to purchase or a permit to carry a pistol in order to buy a pistol. Permit to purchase is something free. You get it from your local police department or sheriff. You fill out a questionnaire, and they run a background check on you, and if you're clear, they'll send you a little paper card that is good for 1 year, and you can buy pistols with that. Now, you also have to pass a federal background check, which is also, it's a federal thing now. I'm going back and forth here, state to federal. Okay. The state bit is this card, but federal, we still have to run you through the computer. The FBI does their background check, and they'll give you a approve, a deny, or a delay.
Okay.
So while they research and make sure you're good. So there's 2 layers in Minnesota for purchasing a handgun. And in Minnesota also, that applies both. Minnesota classifies pistols and certain semi-automatic weapons kind of in one, they kind of group them together, unlike in some other states, like in Florida or Texas or whatnot. If we don't like you for whatever reason, you're not getting the gun. And it's never based on race, sex, sexual orientation. None of that stuff. It's all behavior. It all comes down to behavior, and these guys have been doing this for so long that they can really sniff that out.
Have you yourself ever experienced a customer or a possible customer that something just didn't, their vibe wasn't right, or you didn't make a sale?
Yes, that happens to us all the time. But, oh yeah, I would tell you that multiple times a week. I mean, we will, somebody will come in and be acting a little bit different. They're looking at the cameras, they're back there, they're looking at the screens, they're looking at the parking lot. Somebody parks out of view or doesn't park in our lot, and they walk in, or there's a group of people in the car and they send the woman in to buy the gun, and these guys are watching for that all the time. And they'll be like, they'll say no. I mean, and a lot of them are obvious. So I mean, that's an example of a very simple one, but they do get much more complex than that sometimes. Or you get a pattern. You get somebody that's buying a lot of the same thing regularly, and you start to think, what's he doing? We're not the police. It's not our place to, but we stop that, and we are very closely connected with local and federal law enforcement on things like that. And there's been a few high-profile cases that happened in recent years here that we were involved with stopping that. One of them is still in litigation, but can't talk about that one right now. But anyway, yeah. Another big one is people that appear to be suicidal, or you have any inkling that there's some real mental problems going on there. Somebody that's very, very sad. Somebody that's we had an elderly person a while back that had come in, wanted to buy a revolver, could barely, and they only wanted to buy one round of ammunition, one bullet. What do you mean I have to buy the whole box? Well, we don't sell individual rounds, first of all. Second of all, we don't say it like this, but we're very sorry, but we don't think you're in a condition that you should be purchasing this gun. We're very nice about it, but we know what he was going to do. He was probably diagnosed with something and just frail like that. But you've got that's another easy example. But the suicide, that's big, and the people that are super angry. That's another one. People that are angry, very angry with somebody, and very aggressive and belligerent, and some people that are hot-headed, you don't want a gun in their hands. So that is just kind of added to.
In this specific case, how do you, in a case like this, how do you think the guy was able to obtain? Because I think he had like 3 different firearms, but I think you mentioned big box stores, but like how else do you think somebody like him would be able to purchase a firearm?
Well, that's the thing is, we have all walks of life come in here, and if you seem to know about the guns, you seem to have some enthusiasm about the guns, you check all of those boxes, even if you're a little off or a little different otherwise, like in appearance. I mean, that's a tough one, because if he has a permit and he passes a background check and he or she, doesn't otherwise show overt signs of anything, that's sadly one that slips through the cracks. And if we catch it, the thing that sucks is if we catch it and we refuse the sale and we report them, what are they going to do? They're going to go out there on their phone and they're going to go to another place nearby that I'm not going to name, but they don't care. But yeah, how did this person get away with that? Well, they had no criminal background. From what I understand from the media, I'm not speaking this as personal fact, but my understanding would be there were no, they're supposed to be connecting mental health stuff, and I know that's not fully connected, but anyone that's been involuntarily committed or been, in an inpatient mental health facility they're not supposed to buy a gun. And will that show up in the background check? It's supposed to. I don't know. I can't speak to what the FBI sees, but it's a felony to lie on this form. Each time you lie on one of these, that's a felony. And that's how many we have piling up back there. I mean, look how thick that stack is, and this is one form. Every one of those people committed a felony, but they don't have enough ATF agents to go follow up on that.
So we stopped the sale?
Right. So that's a person that attempted to illegally acquire a firearm. Each one.
This year?
This year. So far this year.
It's just this year.
I mean, we are for sensible gun laws. We're supposed to be in this business saying, everybody should be able to own anything they want. Well, yes, we like to own cool things too, but I mean, these people on the streets with these switches that are popular now, where they're modifying Glock pistols into machine guns and stuff. I mean, there are common sense things, and that's been illegal. Frankly, the only thing that could stop all these shootings in schools, shootings in churches, mass shootings, there's one thing that could stop that permanently. The problem is it's not possible. And you could not take every single firearm away from the population. Even if the law was made to do so, there's still going to be a lot of them out there. Let's say we'll stop selling guns. That's it. No more gun retailers, no more guns can be made in the US. That's it. But there are already so many out there that you're never going to get them off the street. It's already so ingrained You can ban assault weapons. They tried that from 1994 to 2004. The AR-15 style rifles, the AK-47 style rifles, that sunsetted, but it did not have any effect because those that were still out there were grandfathered in. So that's the big question, is making laws harsher on people doing these things, or on the guns that are used to do these things, are literally just like a feel-good story that's optics. It's really just optics or propaganda, because, okay, we're going to make everybody feel better by doing this, but the problem is the guns are still out there. So, and they're always going to still be out there. So, do I have an answer? No, but that's something a person has to think about. I mean, in this country, and in the way the culture is in this country, differs vastly from that of other countries that have done this. Now, I know Japan's very strict. Of course, Great Britain. But the dynamics are different, very different. The cultures are very different, I think. And it's such a large portion of this society is, into the hunting, collecting, and just shooting sports and whatnot, the popularity of it. I mean, in high schools, even here in the Twin Cities, they have trap teams. They shoot shotguns, they shoot clay pigeons. The high schools do. It used to be more prevalent in, years past, but they still do.
Does this, have you seen more like sales go up or down, or like what has the trend been generally speaking?
Well, there are a lot of factors that affect this industry that aren't exactly, you can't really draw a lot of parallels with other industries. When the economy is bad, believe it or not, we do better. Oh. Because we buy more. Because we can always sell what we buy. But used guns are a commodity just like gold or oil. Their values fluctuate. We have market values. Like, believe it or not, those AR style rifles behind you, they're very flat right now. They're not worth a lot of money right now. Because why? Because Trump is in the White House. But when Biden is in the White House, those guns are worth more money. Yeah, you would think we'd be selling tons of guns because of Trump. We'd have all these MAGA guys beating our door down, but it's just not like that. The new gun market has been flat, which we expected. And in this industry, it's referred to as Trump slump 2.0. There was a Trump slump the first administration, which simply means everybody's content, nobody's buying guns. New guns, brand new guns. But they're always buying used guns. So we're doing just fine on the used side of it. We do see that the new side is pretty flat, but we primarily focus on the used side so it doesn't hurt us. Because there's no margin in new guns either, and that's another thing. Another secret in this industry is a new gun, the profit margin's very small. Because there are so many, everybody gets this product from the same distributors and they pay the same price, whether you're big box or you're the next gun store down the street. The brand new Glock pistol is largely the same price. Well, there's a race to the bottom. There's so much competition on that. But with the with the used guns, every gun is one of a kind. And that's kind of where our focus and our niche in this industry is. So. But yeah, as a whole, is the firearms market in the U.S. healthy? No. As a whole, in the past year, I forget what the latest number was, but more than 500 of them, I believe, have closed. There's like 500 and some less federal firearms licensees than there was the previous year. And that's politics. You can't survive on selling new guns if nobody's buying new guns. You can't pay the rent, you can't pay your guys or pay your mortgage or whatever, you can't keep the lights on. So yeah, right now all the major manufacturers are down. Ruger, Smith & Wesson, Colt, all the big makers, they're flat. But yeah, there's just a lot of different factors. Now, when there's a school shooting, something that we've all talked among our staff about in the past, it's kind of sad, but when a new one happens, again, I think the public has already been so desensitized to it. I can't think back to 2012 when that Sandy Hook thing happened. You guys remember that? I mean, that was a big deal. That was like really the one that put this stuff on the map. And we did a year's worth of business in about 2 weeks after that. I can't even tell you how many, I mean, people were lined up out the door and down the street every morning when we opened because they were so afraid that these guns were going to get banned. But as more and more of these have happened, that public panic doesn't happen anymore.
The website's down.
But yeah, this is
NEWSDIG